Hello.
uh, Advocate Shivangi.
Hi. Yes, I
Hi,
can.
I'm Sujata Suresh here. Are you able to
Yes.
see me?
Hello. Yes, I can see you and I can hear you.
That's beautiful. Warm welcome from WEF 2020. It's a
Thank you
pleasure
so
to
much.
have you
Thank
with
you.
us. There's so much that we can all, as listeners, learn from you and would love to have more from you, ma'am. So, if it is okay, I would like to really start it off. Audience, this is a happening advocate for us because she's got experience with POSH, right, ma'am?
Yes,
And
that's correct.
with corporate law also. Isn't it so, ma'am?
That's correct.
This
Yes.
is something which we would definitely look forward to because there's many of us out there, youngsters and people who come from sabbatical that they think that we would love to work, but they don't know the hows and the red flags that we should be watchful about. So over to you, ma'am. With not much ado, with more, I'll hand over the session to you, and so look forward to listening to you. Please
Thank
go
you
on.
so much. Thank you so much. And before we really start this discussion, I want to thank you all for putting together such a great show. It's a fantastic platform, very interactive, and I think over the last couple of days, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself
That's
interacting with a
wonderful.
lot of people. So that's been absolutely amazing. I just wanted to understand that would you be also contributing to the topic, or do I am I the speaker alone, or rather, how much time do I have?
That's a very good question. Actually, you know what? You're very lucky today. We have you as a speaker for this session. So, should you want to extend it, you can extend it. Would you like to make it interactive? Absolutely. What I would suggest is if you can give the first maybe 7 to 8 minutes of your talk, which you think is very important for everyone to, so that the comprehension there for the audience would become very smooth and comfortable. And then what we can do is, you can talk of some case studies. And I would like to ask you some questions also. Even otherwise, people have really egged me to ask some questions because this is a very sensitive area. And recently, we are seeing a lot of it happening across the globe for various reasons in various places. So, we really have a lot to ask you also. So, I definitely like to take the best of you in this session.
All
And
right.
so, first, you can go ahead, ma'am, and then we can actually take it from there.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. So, since my topic is positive work cultures, I thought I'll give a little bit of context on, where our work is coming from, because only when we would have seen some kind of probably negativity or something which is not as great a culture would we, really even look at creating a positive culture.
Yes.
As you rightly mentioned, I, as well as my entire firm, Posh at Work, we assist organizations in, handling sexual harassment complaints, as well as looking at the compliance provisions and what are the measures they can take to really effectively comply with this law.
Oh,
And when you look at the sexual harassment law itself, it has provided for mechanisms where the internal committee, there's something called as internal committee, which can handle complaints of sexual harassment within the organization itself.
the
Because,
ICC,
before,
right?
yes, it's called the ICC or the IC, internal committee. And before this provision or before this law even came out, actually, it used to be the women workforce used to be a little less comparatively. Not so many women would come to work in outside home. I mean, not that work at home is not work, but given that that was the kind of space, given that our culture was very different, also reaching out to courts back then and even now is quite a tremendous job in itself. It's time consuming. It's also a lot of patience, and it can take a lot of financial stress also on a person. So I think the logic of having the internal committee was so that all of the stress can be reduced, and a matter which has arisen out of work could be resolved at the workplace itself. And that's from that the internal committee really took birth. Now, having said that, because internal committee members are people from organizations itself who could be, let's say, from the HR department or from any other department, they don't necessarily come from a legal background or have the kind of expertise that one should have to really do an inquiry and take decisions about a person's career, whether a person is guilty of sexually harassing someone or not. It's a big task, right? So that is why the law also has a provision which says that organizations must invest, in the sense that it's a mandatory compliance requirement that organizations must train their internal committee members. And secondly, what it says is that if you want to really create a safe work environment, there's a section 19 under law which says that all organizations must take efforts to create a safe work environment. If you have to do that, it also says that you need to have some kind of an anti-sexual harassment policy in place. You also need to create awareness programs with respect to the same among employees, because if you have a policy, you have a committee, you've done all the background work, but your employees don't know about it, where are they going to go and complain? So it's only logical that you create awareness about it. So all of this is the background and the context to what I'm going to say next. When we started working with organizations, when organizations also saw that compliance is required and it's mandatory and we should also do it for a good culture, the question that arose for us as practitioners or as experts, if we can call ourselves at all, was that what are the underlying factors which lead to something like this? Because only if we change those underlying factors, eventually will we reach a place where instances like these actually reduce and
Absolutely.
probably even don't happen. So we figured that some of the underlying factors, for example, would be that there is no consent. So only when something is unwelcome will there be any kind of sexual harassment, right? Because only when I like a behavior, when I like a proposition, I will obviously be okay with it, probably I will respond to it as well. But when I am not okay with it, that is when the challenge really arises, and when that becomes probably repetitive as well, I think that okay, now it's too much and I need to file a complaint. So the underlying point over here is, if to create a positive work environment, we could teach our team members and our employees and ourselves firstly the topic, or what the word consent means, I think that would really help. And a lot of times, early on, organizations used to tell us that, but what is it about consent that you want to talk about? I mean, don't we all know it? It just means if you're not okay with it, I'm not going to do it. But it's actually not that simple. Let's say, for example, if there's a person who's a manager and a person who has just joined the organization, let's say as an intern or something, and the manager says, come on, let's go out for coffee, and I as an intern probably don't want to do that, but do I really have the power to say no, or will I be comfortable saying no? Many of us may be, but many of us may not be. So being at that superior position, whether that consent is coming voluntarily or as an influence that I have, that becomes very important to keep in mind. And similarly, when it comes to a person being drunk and they give consent for something, is that really consent? So there could be so many discussions around just the sheer word itself. And if we are able to teach ourselves these small little things, and guided by body language and how people are, when they are staying silent, does it mean yes, does it mean that they are okay with whatever we are saying, then we will be able to reach a place where we are reaching some kind of a positivity in the workplace. Secondly, I think another set of underlying factors is, I strongly feel, is stereotyping or judging, where which also leads to a lot of times sexist comments that we make, which may not be sexual harassment outright, because I mean, sexist comments could be plain simple, something like are you are a lady, ghar jao bacha sambhalo, so something like that, which could mean, it could mean a lot of derogatory feeling, or a discriminatory feeling for me. It might not be sexual harassment, but the point is that because we have a mindset like that, a certain person of a certain gender is fit for a certain role and may not be able to do something else, also leads us tomorrow to make comments which we probably would not have even thought of making.
Yes.
So trying and understanding our own set of biases, or our own set of, everyone has biases. Today you have met me, probably you'll form an opinion of me, because it's only human to do that, and everybody does that. So it's important that we have an understanding and awareness about that, about the fact that yes, there could be opinion making that we are doing, but in a professional setup, how much are we willing to really discuss it? And if we are discussing it, then are we doing it professionally and respectfully, as we would like to get treated by other people, or are we being derogatory? So those kind of things really then help. So talking about respect and professionalism, that also becomes a point of discussion with the organizations that we work with, where we try and help them with positive work cultures. So I think I'm going to sum this up. Like I'll leave it here, and maybe if there are any questions that you have for me, then I'd
Definitely,
love to answer.
definitely. There are a couple of them that I have lined up, ma'am. And thank you so much for having spoken about this. Please, the few things that there are many things. Let me start with this. That when we talk of ICC being trained or the IC being trained, you're talking of training by a lawyer, an advocate, or, are you just talking of only the posh law being shared with the people? Are they trained in that? Or are they really being trained to look at it? Because I see this, I have with my background, 20 years into training in corporates and training. I mean, I offer a lot of volunteering work also. So I see this as a big challenge. Most of the internal committee are not really equipped properly to handle it. So what is the training that you're talking of that I would like to understand a little more?
Surely. When we look at the provision of law, it simply puts a responsibility on each employer to train their committee members. It does not say how you should be doing it. Probably the reason being that each organization's financial capacity, time, all of those, maybe number of employees also that they have in the organization could be very different. So I think that's why the lawmakers have purposely left it that, whatever it is that you can do in your setups, please do that, but ensure
Okay.
that you do it. But
Okay.
having said that, in the practical world, what are the things, on which the IC should be trained on? It's not necessary that a lawyer has to train, but I would want to say that whoever does the training, it's a responsibility on us as people that we know our subject well before we really do the training. Because sometimes when I also read some posts online, I see a lot of misinformation passing around, which
Yes.
could lead to a lot of, again, the end result is going to be that whoever is going to read that and do an inquiry is going to affect somebody's career, probably not in the right
Absolutely.
way. So
Absolutely. It becomes
yes.
a taboo, At this juncture, I find that supposing it's a senior member in the organization, and now who goes and ties the bell on this person? Who goes and tells them that this behavior is not acceptable? Because even the IC is being, moderated by this person, and their language is not really acceptable. Now, if there was a, I would think that, if the country can bring in, if the law can bring in this point that a lawyer can actually say this, that this team, this ICC team or this IC team is equipped with understanding it to this level, I think that finality that comes with it is something phenomenal for organizations. So I was looking at that aspect of it. Moving on, can I ask you one more, ma'am, in connection with this?
So
Yeah, the second thing that I want to ask you is, now this happens in some certain kinds of manufacturing companies. It happens in even other places also, even in the retail industry, that, I find that, this is what is the finding, that these supervisors, all right, they have youngsters who are reporting to them and they send them messages, like you were saying that, which comes now, some of them, the juniors, are not even aware, the interns are not even aware, is this acceptable or not acceptable? Because when they look at this gentleman or they look at the senior, they see that there's a big age gap for them. So they don't know, initially the red flags don't come to their head. Afterwards, they suddenly realize there's something amiss over here. No, but when the ICC is searching, they will say, oh, initially you were quiet and now why are you raising a noise about it? So how does this situation be handled? Because we've got global audience. I thought I will explore this a little bit more as to would it
yes.
have been better to actually put it in the beginning itself, a stop for such things?
Right. So there are a couple of things here. One is that when it comes to a supervisor or a senior, anybody who is at a powerful position by designation or by any other reason, when they behave in a certain manner with their set of team members, anyway, that is treated a little bit more strictly under the law as well as by courts. And that form of sexual harassment is also called quid pro quo form of sexual harassment.
Oh, I
Quid
see.
pro quo means it's a Latin phrase. It means this for that. So where, often you would hear that, when a person is, let's say, at a comparatively, younger or his junior position, that, if you do not give me this or that, I will ensure that your promotion does not happen, or I will ensure that you have to leave the job. Or the fact that, the message, like the example that you gave, messages are being sent, but the other person is not in a position to respond for whatever reason. So when we do these trainings, also with organizations for, again, culture trainings, we do bring up this discussion that when you talk about power, it is always, the person who is at the comparatively the more powerful position, it is that person's responsibility to also understand and perceive what are the other people thinking of me, and how are they perceiving me. For example, tomorrow, if my boss tells me, come, please, just go and buy a tiffin box and deliver it to my wife. Okay, and I am a lawyer by profession. If I have been hired for a legal job and my boss is telling me that, I need to buy a tiffin box and deliver to his wife, he needs to think whether I will be comfortable doing something like that or not, and whether I will be in a position to say no to it or not, whether or not it's sexual harassment. So
Yes.
those kind of things become very important, and until and unless we start thinking on those lines, we will not be, really be able to restrict instances like these from happening. Eventually, even the intern or whoever is at the junior position, they will take it till 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably sixth level, and at the seventh level, when it becomes too much, someone someday will speak up, and ultimately there will be a challenge. So yeah.
So thank you so much. So as I understand, it is, would it be safe for the person to actually raise the red flag to the organization, though they are in a very, designation wise, they may be in a very low position, but still they can feel free to
Absolutely.
actually go and speak it out. All
Yes,
right.
yes, yes. The
Uh,
law has, since you have, specifically mentioned this, I want to say that if you look at the law, there's a section 2 which defines the aggrieved woman. And the aggrieved woman's definition is it can be any woman of any age, whether employed or not. So let's say that I don't work in an organization X, but a manager from that organization has sent me a text which has pornography or has obscene content. I can very much reach out to their organization and say that, look, your employee has sent me something like this.
That's phenomenal. I think, thank you so much, considering that this is WEF Global. It's 2020, WEF 2020 is a global, it's a digital thing. There are many out there actually listening to this, and we'll be accessing this again and again. And so your inputs are of phenomenal importance for everybody. So I'm so grateful that you're actually addressing this perspective. The other aspect of it that I would like to say, ma'am, this is with respect to looking at positivity at the workplace. See, one was, harassment itself. Now, I find that because this is about Women Economic Forum, I have this pertinent question that, women, like yesterday, I was with a group of ladies where we were looking at mental health being integrated with physical health, and we were looking at, looking at commitment, courage, and all that. And we were looking at, the 5 C's that make a woman perform very well. One important phase is that, which I would like to link with your talk, ma'am, is about creating a positive environment. See, women can achieve a lot when they feel the environment is safe. They will they will really outperform themselves. Most of the women are like that. Sometimes it is seen that women are actually putting down the other women. All right, this is again another area which not necessarily has to do with the posh, but it has to do with the positivity at the workplace. Now, how does one develop a culture? I would like your inputs on this because you have your expertise in this area also. Because women can really perform themselves very well. But then, when they find that the environment of trust is not there, or some women putting down the other women, how does one deal with this kind of a situation? There is no law as of now on that. So, how does one equip themselves or help build a culture like that?
Right. So again, I think a very pertinent point. And while there is no law as such on any sort of discrimination, but most organizations, they do have policies which say that when it comes to work and a workplace, it's only the merit and the brain that's going to count. So just having your personal opinions, or like I mentioned, our own set of biases to say that a particular person of a particular gender can do or not do something, is not going to really matter, because who is really going to judge that situation? So I think a lot of times it comes again from our set of understanding of things, which is developed by society, by media, by myths that go around, that when only a woman can be a like a caregiver, a proper caregiver, a man cannot be. That's why you don't have paternity leave so much. You have maternity leave, which is now for 6 months. The paternity leave has started, but it is not so much. So it is, I think it's a mixed bag, and that is why when we talk about positive cultures, it's very important that as leaders of an organization, as people who are managing other teams, we ourselves take the responsibility to ensure that we trickle down the right information. Only when we
Absolutely.
do that will people who look at us, who see us, I mean, as it's very famously said, walk the talk,
Yes.
or tone at the top. So these kind of
Yes.
things, they really do matter. And over there I want to say that it's really not about whether a woman is putting down a woman or not, because I think today, right now, the place we are at, especially if you look at social media, people, it doesn't matter what gender they are. If they want to really pull down someone, they will just do it. And there are absolutely no boundaries at all whatsoever. So I think what is missing from people right now is a little bit of empathy and a little bit of show of respect as well. If we start having those as human beings, I think we will be able to cross that boundary of whether there is a certain gender in front of me or not, whether I should be talking to a man in a particular way or not, or whether I should be speaking to a transgender person in a way or not, whether this person is gay so I should behave in an XYZ manner, or this person is bisexual so I should stay away. I don't know what that person is going to do. The thing is that whoever is doing whatever in their own spaces is their space. As long as in a workplace, with respect to work, with respect to meritocracy, if we can just restrict ourselves to the professionalism and respect, I think we should be good to go.
This is a phenomenal input that you have provided. You did bring in the factor of transgender and about, the sexual orientation of people. Now, my question over here would be that, how do we, would it help if, in an organization, in every room or, in every place, there is the number that they can call, in the case that they are going through this? It does this help, this kind of, that it becomes a reminder for everyone also. Can we keep it, like, a positive culture, or a number that they can contact immediately, that that flashes on their system, or do you think these kinds of inputs could actually support in creating a work environment?
Absolutely. So even when you look at the POSH law itself, it
Hmm.
says that you firstly, as an organization, I'm saying that you have an internal committee, and then you disseminate information about this committee. So the
Okay.
only way you can do it is by having their phone numbers or their contact details. But if we let sexual harassment also, if we keep it aside for 2 minutes, but if we just talk about pure positive work environments in an organization, everyone likes to be heard. Whether my infrastructure is not working or my fan is not working in my office, if I'm able to share this pain with someone from the HR, from with anyone else, it is going to make me feel better for sure. So
Yes.
most of the global organizations, they have anonymous toll numbers as well, where you can call and you can put your complaints, you can raise your grievances. You can also get anonymous counseling if you want. Some
Oh.
organizations have internal platforms as well, where they can one can reach out to the HR or someone from the learning and development team, or a grievance redressal officer. In fact, the new transgender persons law that has been passed, it
Okay.
also has a mention that every organization must have a complaints officer. So there are these definitely helpful tools, definitely.
That's really very, very nice to know. You have given us such a lot of information, which is really very useful to ensure that, that when we step out of the house, the only thing that any of us, many out there, are wanting to do is gain a great name and fame for themselves. And, but then when they get into a work environment space, they can come across so many things that many of them don't even achieve the potential best. They just are trying to run away from icky situations, not knowing what to do. And this keeps following them everywhere. So this input has been very useful. I have one more question, ma'am. May I take that? And then, we can actually,
Yes, please, please.
this is about ladies and gents also. See, in a situation like how COVID is right now, all right, we're all limping back to offices or still working it's all, most of it is WFH, it's work from home. What I'm saying is that, that when we're all limping back to offices, I should say, there are a lot of staff being laid off or whatever that's happening. So what happens is that there will be some of us who would not be working right now, who would get a job maybe after some time. COVID by itself has put in a lot of stress. There are so many topics within the RWEF 2020 that we are talking of, stress related, and we're really addressing this to enable people to actually accept. We're connecting globally over here, across the globe, we're connecting, breaking barriers of distance. But still, the reality remains like a sabbatical, whether it's a lady or a gent, whether it's pregnancy or whether it's COVID, post-COVID. How does an individual equip themselves to handle this, to get a job maybe after a gap, maybe? And so how does that, and how do they keep themselves in a positive frame so that they can feel positive in a positive environment also, or not start feeling they are victimized or they are being subjected, or even small things tend to flare up in some people's minds. So could you throw some light on this, ma'am?
So I think it might sound a little harsh, but and I'm coming from the space where we also do work with, or at least till quite some time, we were working with, especially women who had taken sabbatical because of childbirth or other personal emergencies, because they had to shift from one city to another, because of getting married, etc. And what we realized was that, one is that when something like that happens to us, we feel very underconfident, because we feel that, everyone else has moved 2 years, 3 years ahead of me, and I'm still stuck where I was stuck. So
Yes.
the only way of addressing that challenge, and see, it's only natural that that's going to happen, because you do see the world moving and you are not sure whether you are absolutely ready or not. Okay, so while it's a perception, it could also be the reality. For example, especially in my field, if I do not read a judgment for 2 months, I know that I am redundant. That's what my profession is like, right? So in fact, we say that, when you choose law, you choose to remain a student for the rest of your life. Same is the case with doctors. If doctors don't understand about the new surgeries and new procedures, they will become redundant. So anyway, as professions, especially as professionals, you have to keep updating yourself. Now with, this new technology coming in, so many of us did not know how to use Zoom or, any one of these apps and tools, but we're all learning and we're all trying to understand these things. So my one tip to anyone who has taken a sabbatical would be that don't feel that you are the only person who is feeling underconfident by things like these. The only way we can update ourselves or, come to the same page as other people is by really working very hard. Maybe, for that making up for that 1 year's loss, we might have to work twice as hard. I'm not denying that. And that's why I said it might sound harsh, but when we actually prepare ourselves, we will certainly know that yes, we are ready. And that will show in work, in job interviews as well, even in the work that we are bringing to the table, because we have done our background work.
Fantastic. I should really, really appreciate this, Advocate Shivangi ji. It is wonderful reading your profile, and it was a joy for me. I was looking forward when I could connect with you, as in for a
Thank you so much.
surprise. I have to compliment you. You look so beautiful over here, and it is
Thank you so much, ma'am.
amazing that you have come with this kind of background, and you handle it with such ease. It is really very interesting. And so was this by your choice, or is this a family hand down that you have become an advocate?
No, it's actually a choice. Till the last minute, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career, but I think I've taken a good call.
That's a really very good thing. It's wonderful. I really, the key points that we have taken up from here is that, under one about creating positive environment is that it is a leaders walk the talk of the organizations. And I'm proud about that. When you say that, it's better we start showing that as leaders of an organization. As an organization, there is among various departments, there should be a department which is definitely considered as the ICC, which is trained and keeping itself updated, IC or ICC, which is keeping itself updated. There should be a officer who's actually, a complaints officer, particularly in an organization, would be beneficial. putting up numbers, flashing numbers, and also making anonymous tolls available for, toll call available for participants. So the associates would be a very welcome point for organizations to equip and maintain their positive environment. And along with developing this positivity as a culture itself, it would be good for people to also look at, how to equip any gender people to come and work with them with the same positivity. So there is no bias or no judgment about anyone around us. And the next is, for those who have joined in a sabbatical, after sabbatical or COVID kind of situation where they have had to take a break and then come back to work, it is for the individual to actually step up now and then, accept the reality and work doubly hard. And isn't that so right, ma'am? And
Absolutely,
God
but I just
bless.
want to make one addition that, while of course it's the individual's responsibility as well, but I think like many organizations, I'm aware that Tata Steel has definitely taken, an initiative where they, especially take out job vacancies for people who are, especially women who are coming after a break. And I think somewhere down the line, since we are talking about positive work cultures and organizations, it is also important that we are mindful of the fact that many women, especially men as well, but we see still, I mean, data wise, still a lot of women who come back after sabbatical. So as organizations, we should also take that initiative probably somewhere, maybe not too many vacancies, but having some at least, and probably the orientation for this kind of a platform for people who are coming back after sabbatical would also look a little different. So I think as
Absolutely.
organizations, we should take that responsibility too.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having joined us. And I would like to say, a real hats up to you and a big clap for you. And
Thank you
I'm
so much.
sure the people around would be able to contact you on LinkedIn, isn't it so?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
On LinkedIn, and they could connect and then seek your guidance or your consultation on this, and to take it further to seek your support. Our best wishes to you. You're an iconic leader, lady leader, for giving a very positive environment, and you're giving such a contribution to the environment itself. Thank you so much on behalf of WEF 2020. You made it happen for us so that we can make it happen for so many more outside. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you so
us.
much, ma'am. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am. See
Thank you.
you, ma'am. It's over.